to the Cozy Mystery Mansion. If this is your first time visiting, I'm Ashley and this is Betty, and we are dying to share with you our favorite cozy mystery reads. Join us. There's so many great cozy mystery series out there, and I want to share 5 that have lots and lots of books in the series. So I love that about cozy mysteries, that you can read one book, and if you really love the characters and you really love the setting, you can read another and another, and it's like visiting old friends over and over again. But before we do that, I would like to share with you what I've been reading this week, and that is Murder at the Bake Sale by Lee Hollis. This is the second book in the Maya and Sandra series, and it's set in a high school setting, and it's parents attending PTO meetings, and murder ensues. I've never been to a PTA meeting where there's a murder, but never say never, right? So I highly recommend this series. Okay, so let's get started. The first series that I want to share with you that's totally binge-worthy is Anything by the author Tara Lush. Tara Lush has written so many good series, and I've always enjoyed the books that I pick up from her. Most of her books are set in Florida, and they have a very quirky, small town vibe with tropical flair and really great writing and really great characters. So definitely check out Anything by Tara Lush. The second series that is totally binge-worthy that I want to share is the Magical Bookshop series by Amanda Flower. There are a lot of great magical, paranormal mysteries out there, but what sets this one apart from everything else is the setting. The bookshop itself has this magical tree that's been growing from the center of the shop for 100 years. And the owners of the bookshop, Violet and her grandmother, must water this tree every day from a secret spring deep in the forest. They live in Upstate New York. So that part is just really interesting. A lot of their power comes from this tree and this natural element. Also, the books in the bookshop, the bookshop communicates through books. So when Violet, the amateur sleuth, is trying to solve the mystery, the bookshop will throw a book at her feet, and the book will be a clue. It'll be like a classic piece of literature that's a clue to solving the crime. So if you're a lover of magical cozies, upstate New York, cozy vibes, very like autumnal and winter settings, plus if you love books that tie classic literature into the story, you're going to love this series. Next up, number 3 on my list is another series by Amanda Flower, same series as the Magical Bookshop. This is the Amish Candy Shop mystery series, and I have loved the series for so long. I've talked about it on the channel before. It is set in Harvest, Ohio, which is a small Amish community. Our amateur sleuth, though, is not Amish, and that kind of tension there of her being English, like they call anyone who's not Amish English, her being English and them being Amish, is a push and pull kind of odd couple element that's really fun. So Bailey is the sleuth's name. She is living in New York City and working for a famous chocolatier to be a chocolate artist, and she's rising the ranks and she's getting very successful. And then one day her grandparents call her from Harvest, Ohio, where they live, and ask her to come and help them run their candy shop that they have at the town square there, because they're having trouble. Her grandfather is sick. So she goes to Harvest to help, and her grandparents are actually Amish. Her dad was raised Amish and then left the faith. So she is familiar with Amish culture, but still isn't, she's an outsider. So it's a great series. I love the small town. I love the candy shop. It brings a really, literally sweet, right, element to it. I also just, like, Amanda Flower does a great job of writing her characters. I love the Amish characters. I love the Amish friends Bailey makes. And it's a culture that I am not, like, I live in the South. We don't have a lot of Amish communities here. So not big ones anyway. So it's interesting to dive into a culture that you don't know much about and explore that culture in a book. And this series is just really well done. Fourth on my list of binge-worthy series is the Vampire Knitting Club. If you haven't read this series yet, you are in for a treat. This series combines paranormal mystery elements with adorable British charming culture and village, and you definitely need to read it. So our sleuth is a girl in her 20s who doesn't really know what to do with her life. And what does she do? Normally, when she doesn't know what to do with her life, she goes and visits her grandmother to get life advice. Her grandmother lives in Oxford, England, and runs a knitting store in town. So she shows up at the knitting store kind of unannounced, and when she gets there, she finds out that her grandmother has passed away. And she's devastated, and she's also questioning, well, why didn't anyone tell me I'm her family? Like, was there a funeral? Was there, what happened? And all the details for her grandmother's passing are very vague, and she can't get any straight answers from anybody, even the doctor who signed the death certificate. So she doesn't know what to do. She has left the knitting store in her grandmother's will. So now she's got to decide, do I stay and run a knitting store and I don't even know how to knit, or do I just sell it and move on with my life? Then one night she's walking around town and she sees a woman who looks very much like her grandmother. And she's like, am I going crazy? What's happening? Well, I don't want to have any spoilers in this, but her grandmother is not dead, but she's not alive either. So glean what you will from that. Also, there may or may not be a secret layer of vampires who love to knit living under the yarn store. It's such a fun series. I love the combination of all the things we love in a cozy, like small town setting, charming characters, cozy things like knitting, and there's a tea shop next door, and all those things like that. I also adore a British cozy, and I adore a paranormal cozy. So it's just kind of the perfect storm of things I really like, and I think you'll like it too. Bonus, there are like 20 or more in this series. There's so many books to read. You will never run out of things to read if you love this series. All right, last book on the list, the Camper and Criminal series by Tonya Kappes. I recently went through kind of a drought reading cozies. I picked up book after book, and by about page 45 to 50, just was kind of like, and would set them down. Just really felt like I was not picking good books, which usually isn't the case for me. So when I found the Camper and Criminal series, I started it by audiobook, and I immediately, like maybe 10 minutes into listening, was laughing. I was in love with the characters. I was in love with the setting. So I credit this book for getting me out of my reading drought, and I think you'll enjoy it too. So the series is set at a campground in a national park in Kentucky. And if you love a classic, girl living in the city has to move to the small town and make it work thing, you're gonna love this. The sleuth is a woman who was married to a man who had some secrets. He did some illegal things, and he was kind of a con artist. So when he gets sent to jail, she is left kind of holding the bag, and she's got to pick up the pieces of her life. And she has all of her, big city wealth kind of repossessed by the government when he goes to jail to pay off all of his debts and his crimes. So the only thing that he leaves her is a campground in Kentucky. When she shows up, the campground is in complete disarray. It's in terrible shape. And everyone in town hates her because she's related to the van that screwed them all over. So the more time she spends in town, the more she learns that her husband has been conning people out of their money in this town for years, and he has destroyed lives. So she spends the series fixing up the campground, making friends with people along the way, and kind of doing what she can to make things right. And I love the characters in this book. They're what first drew me in. All of the characters are just so quirky and so funny, and I immediately wanted to go spend time in this book, in this town. It's set in a town called Normal, Kentucky, and I would spend time in Normal, Kentucky any day of the week. So I'm really excited to read more. So those are my 5 binge-worthy cozy mystery series that I think you should go try right now. That's all from me and Betty. Thank you for visiting the Cozy Mystery Mansion, and we'll see you next time.